Okay, anyway, good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's get into it. I'm Kenyatta. On this, the ArtKitech. On this channel, we destroy and build simultaneously, for there can be no resurrection without destruction. Um, Once again, I'm Kenyatta, but you will refer to me as Miss, Queen, Goddess, Ma'am, my Priestess, Empress, all of those wonderful things, okay? Or whatever I tell you to refer to me as. Um, what else? Okay, I have no enemies. The enemies of God have been defeated. But if God is the creator of both the dark and the light, the good and the evil, then God has no enemies. Ye are God's. The love and goodwill taken care of within definitely eliminates that without. As well, I will not be tolerating anyone being disrespectful to me or unkind to me, uncouth to me, or common with me, or anyone, or none of that bully shit with me or anyone else who generally supports me on my platform. Hello, whoever is in here. So something happened. I was on my laptop. Something happened. So I had to cut it off. Okay. So hopefully, let's see what's happening. But anyway, I was saying I was laying here in my bed and I looked out the window and I saw that it was light outside, like at like 5:30, and I was really pleased. I got kind of excited about that because I can't stand the time change. Okay, because it gets too dark too early. I remember when I was younger, and me and my sibling, it's wintertime, we get home from school, it'd be like, I don't know. I always remember watching the Pink Panther. We get off at school at 3. We probably get home about 3:30. Pink Panther used to come on, I think about like maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock. And it would be pitch black outside. Okay. And this is like when I was in elementary school. Of course, I grew up in it, so I didn't think anything of it, just how it was. I didn't pay attention to that whole thing at that age. But when, of course, when I got older, I did, and I just, it's like I couldn't stand it. Like, why is it like pitch black at 5 o'clock? When they say that, the reason for the time change would had to do with the whole agricultural thing, and we passed those times now. And some states, some regions in the country have stopped doing that with the time. Some never did it. I guess it would depend on what the agricultural situation was like. Some never did it, some stopped doing it, but here, in this part of the country, and some other parts, they're still doing it. So as I got a little older, good evening to whomever is in the room. As I got older, I definitely started paying attention to the time, and when it's light outside. So I would notice, it's very unusual this year, I would notice, not okay, let me say this. I started paying attention to it. My daughter's 18, probably when she was very small. Okay, so close to 18 years I've been paying attention to it. By this time of the year, what is today? February 3rd. February 3rd, it would still be dark at this time when she was younger. I've noticed the last couple of years that I've been paying attention to it, it's been getting lighter outside earlier. Okay. It's February 4th. It feels like the early stages of spring, when spring is starting to pop in. Okay. Christmas Day here, and I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. So I was looking at pictures of snowstorms. No, what snowstorms and what the weather was like, when I was growing up, 70s and 80s in the wintertime. It was crazy. Okay, it was crazy, but we were out in it. You know what I'm saying? It was just like that was just a everyday thing in the wintertime here. Okay, it has. I remember my late teenage years when it started to get very mild. I'm not gonna say very mild, but when it started to get mild. Okay, for winter, for Cleveland winters. Definitely every Christmas when I was a kid. I mean, please, there was no such thing as not having any snow on the ground. Okay, all the way up through till New Year's, because when I got older and I was like, I'm sick of this shit, especially when I started living in other places where it wasn't like that. Now I went to school in DC, so DC winters, I mean, it would get blistery cold, but it was not all the snow and stuff. But I do remember my senior year, there was an ice storm. There was a literal ice storm. where you looked up and chips of ice were like falling out the sky. So I was dating this guy. He was a photographer, and he didn't go to Howard, but he was from DC. But he was a photographer. He did a lot of work for Howard, and he did a lot of, you know, professional photography work. So they closed school down for like almost like a week. So I was hanging out with him, and he got up one evening and was on his way to work, and I was like, but it's an ice storm. It's an ice storm. I was like, shit. He was like, I gotta go to work. And he rode a bike. DC was one of those cities where you don't have to have a car. Public transportation. Good evening to the 3 people that are in here. I sure would like somebody to hit the thumbs up button. I want to be in the algorithm too. But nevertheless, ice storm. You didn't have to have a car. The public transportation in DC was excellent. Okay, walking. We used to walk from our apartment to Georgetown and Bag Adams, Morgan, wherever, all the time. That was not a big deal. Okay, it was not that bad. So he got on his bike, and he made it, and it was a lot of hills, so he had to go down the hill. Made it back, and I was like, "How did you make it out there?" He was like, "I had to do what I had to do." I made it just fine. But anyway, so like I said, I've been paying attention, and I noticed so I looked outside last week at like 5. Close to 5, it was getting lighter, but it wasn't 5 o'clock yet, but it was getting lighter. A little bit after 5, next thing I know, it's lighter. Okay, maybe like 5:15, lighter. Okay, last night maybe like 5:45. It was if I remember correctly, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this outside. It was now it's coming down now. Okay, the sun is coming down now, but it was not dark either. But it wasn't like this. And so I'm just like, so interesting how, because I'm looking outside today. I was outside, taking care of some things, errands and whatnot, and I'm looking out and I'm like, damn, it feels like maybe late, almost. Well, here, I've experienced snowstorms in May. We've had snowstorms in April. Okay, so it was just kind of like, this feels like May. Okay, May in Cleveland is not, has not been all springy and it's warm outside and stuff. Like, we might have a day or two like that. Okay, no, I mean April. Okay, but parts of May too. Okay, I remember my senior year of high school. It was like graduated. We seniors are always done early. Got finished with high school like in I don't know, late May. Where everybody else was finished early June. I remember May snowing outside. Yeah, I was pissed because I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. Now, if you're coming in here and you're coming in here genuinely, I'm going to expect that you're going to hit the thumbs up button. If you're coming here for some bullshit, it's not happening. Not now, not ever. All right? I don't give a fuck who you are. Okay. All right? Otherwise, you can just keep your ass up off of my fucking live. All right? Nevertheless, because I feel the fucking energy. So if you're genuine, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not, just sit there, because whatever the fuck you're looking to happen is not going to. All right. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So like I said, I was laying in the bed and I said, look at it outside. 5:30, still complete daylight. No sign. It's not dusky or anything. Complete daylight, out there. And it feels like the early beginning stages of spring. Interesting. I said, I'm just, and you hear the birds chirping. Never. Are you fucking kidding me? Never would you hear no birds chirping in February. Okay? In no damn Cleveland, Ohio. It's been like that for quite a few years now, last few years. But generally, okay, so global warming, whatever the fuck it is. All right, change in the motherfucking air, whatever the fuck it is. But I was just laying here, and I was just thinking, like looking outside, thinking. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was sharing with her some of the experiences that I've had at subbing. So I was just thinking ahead of say, okay, I'll share my sub, because I was gonna do some readings. But I don't feel like it. Okay. Although I'm sitting here shuffling my cards. Okay. If something comes out, we'll see what that's all about. But anyway, so I had made a video when I first started this channel about why I got into subbing, okay? And it pretty much I needed a fucking job, okay? And I had sister locks for a lady who does my sister locks. My daughter used to have sister locks years ago. So she this lady didn't start her locks, but she didn't install them, but she did her retie. So I've known her for a lot of years, and I had I was teaching college, moved on from that to just little stuff here. Tried to get a real 8 to 5 job. Listen, I mean, after somebody like me, after you teach college campus, it's just like that working 8 to 5, shit is like for the fucking birds, okay? Because you have summers off, you got a lot of free time, this, that, and the other. So I didn't. I was like, I need a job. She was a sub, and she was like, why don't you try subbing? Okay. When I first got back to him, and I had tried it for a sec. I never did it. I signed up for it with a particular district, but I never did do it. So I was like, okay, I'll try that. Pretty much, it was a job. I needed a job. Okay, but I have found it to be very rewarding in many ways. Okay, one, I get to work with young people, which I like. All right. Sometimes you don't, okay? But for the most part. And you don't deal with the same type of politics and extra shit and drama and whatnot that regular teachers deal with, okay? But I've had some long term teaching positions where I've had to deal with that, but it was still, I was still a sub, even though it was long term. But so anyway, when you sub, I don't know what it's like other places. Okay, like some districts, and I mean other states and whatnot. Some districts they hire their subs. Some will go through an agency. Okay, and the agency, of course, has got to get their cut. All right, so you go directly with the district. The district will pay you a certain amount, but if you go with the agency with that same district, it's going to be cut because the agency, they got to get their cut. So when I started subbing, just period as a sub, you choose, if you work with an agency, you choose where you want to go and you choose how often you want to work. However, you never told, what you're going into. You have no clue. You see a school, you need to work. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. All right. They used to call. Some still might call, but now, with the internet and everything's online. So you never know what you're going into, okay? You just go. Now, even if you work for a district, you don't know what you're going into. You just know you're going to you might be in a particular building, or you might work for the district and go to, a variety of, various buildings. You may not be just housed at a building. They got your building sub, meaning you're housed at a building. They have your patron subs, which means you're housed in a district. That's through the agency. Building sub through the agency is you're housed at a particular building. Patron sub means you are housed in that district, not just one building. Okay, day-to-day sub, you go wherever you want to go. They got various titles for all of this. So even if you are in a particular building, you don't know exactly what you're going into. You're just going to work. Okay, you're just going to work. The thing that's good with the agency though is like when I interviewed with the agency years ago, they asked you what you were comfortable with because you have your special needs rooms. Okay, so what are you comfortable with? Some things I don't think that legally subs are allowed to do. Okay, so like for example, say you're in a special needs room, right? Where you may have, you got your mild to moderate and, so on and so forth. And you have some students who are nonverbal. You have some students who they need help with, they have to be changed. They're wearing like a diaper type of a thing and they have to be changed regardless of their age. Okay, so I know like paraprofessionals who work in those rooms, they have special training. You know what I'm saying? Subs don't have that training. Though you may be sent to a special needs room and you may be because you're covering for a para for the day. Okay, you can sub for a teacher, you can sub for a paraprofessional, you can sub for an intervention specialist. Then they will have now I think the agencies have this too, where you have subs who they don't sub, they sub in the schools, but they don't sub in those teaching roles. They may sub for a secretary, they may sub for the custodian, a variety of things. So, like if you're going to be a patron sub or a building sub, pretty much you go to work. This is where you're assigned for the day. Okay. If you're going to just be a day-to-day sub, you can choose. You may not know where you're going specifically, but you will know, okay, I'm going to this school in this district, 7th grade, for this teacher who teaches English. So you know you're going to be in the 7th grade English room. Okay. This particular district in this building, I'm choosing this district in this building, 4th grade. Okay. You go to, however, agency or not, okay, wherever where they ask you, okay. I mean, subs have a lot of freedom, okay. They ask you if you sign up, say you sign up for 4th grade, the 4th grade room, and okay, at this building in this district, you may get to work, and as a day-to-day sub, you may get to work, and they say, you know what, we don't need you in that room. We need you in this room. And you may say, well, you may think, well, hell, this is what specifically, I don't work well with 6th grade. Or say they want you in the 6th grade. I don't work well with 6th grade. I'd rather be on 4th grade. But they really, the agency, I would imagine any agency, okay, there are a few here. The agency is like, listen, go to where they ask you to go, regardless of where you signed up for. Okay. Now, a sub doesn't have to stay. Okay. You can say, I'm not, that's not what I signed up for. I'm not going to do it and leave. Okay. Of course, that doesn't look good for the agency, but they understand, it's an agency, like a temp agency. Okay. Well, moving on. All right. Where's my coffee? Okay. Moving on. So, if you work as if now, they could also, as an agent, if you go through the agency, you can also go in and say, here, I'm here for my 7th grade class today or whatever, and they can say, you know what, our school, our high school needs a sub. And, we can do this coverage here, but they need a sub, and it's still in that district. Would you mind going covering? Okay, yes, no, maybe, so whatever. As a patron sub, like I said, you're in the district, okay? Not in a particular building, but in that district. So you can end up going to any, school, any building. Building sub, you're housed in one particular building, but if when you get there, there's a need somewhere else, it's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But you're not necessarily told you're going to be in this room or you're going to be in that room. This room has this, or this school is this. Because like one time now, when I first started subbing, I went to a school. Come to find out, the whole school, and I don't remember the quote unquote terminology, okay, but it was, the whole school was like kind of like special needs, okay. It was it's not easy, because you can be thrown in a room, like I've been put in rooms where the teacher, who was the person who was the teacher of them, ended up having nervous breakdowns because it was too much. Okay, what was going on with the students was too much. Okay, that has happened to me a couple times, where I ended up in those rooms as a sub. One school I refused to stay, because always, if you have a good, administrative support, no problem. You can make it through it. Okay. If you don't have good administrative support, it's like, no, thank you, because you don't have the support that you need. There are rooms that you have to have more than one person in the room. Okay. So sometimes a sub is simply there. The teacher's there, but the para is out for the day, or the IS is out for the day. So they just have to have 2 people in the room. Okay. Or however many people they're supposed to have in the room. We're talking about legally. We're not talking about what the school would like. This is legal shit. It's got to be at least 2 people in that room. And sometimes that may be why you're asked to go to a different building. Well, this room, it's okay if it's only one person in here. This room, there has to be at least 2 people in the room, and this person is out. I don't know the reasons, the legalities and stuff. Okay. So anyway, I've been in those rooms where, like, one room I went, one school I went, it was like the whole school. The administrative support it wasn't good. Fuck it, I'm not staying. You're not helping. I'm the only person in the room. It's supposed to be at least 2 people in the room, and I didn't find that out till halfway through. Well, it wasn't halfway through the morning. I'll put it like that. Okay, it was a tough room. Okay, there were a lot. Just about everybody in the room, and they said just about that's how this whole school was. I didn't know. Just about everybody in the room, every student in the room was special needs. Okay, and when you talk about special needs, you're talking about a wide range of things. Okay, and if you don't have, and I'm a new sub, I was, and if you don't have the understanding, of what any of that means, it can be a challenge to deal with, right? Sometimes some of my favorite rooms are the special. I love all. Honestly, people ask me, what do you like best? When I first started subbing, I did not like working with kindergarten. I was like, I did it a couple times. I was like, I will never work kindergarten again. Now I'm getting to the point where kindergarten is like almost my favorite room. Okay. I didn't like it. So it's just like, and you just go, it's experiences that you have. Okay. So no, I didn't like kindergarten at first. Okay. And whenever I saw it, I was like, I'm not working kindergarten. Okay. And then one time I worked, when I first started, I worked at 3 middle schools. Now, I'm born in 1972, so I come from a time period where it wasn't, there's no negotiation in fucking school. There's no negotiation with adults. You're going to do what you're told to do, what you're supposed to do, and if you don't, there are consequences. The soft stuff and all that stuff people be talking about right now, no. Well, are you fucking kidding me? What are you talking about? I mean, that's the joke, okay? It wasn't even a thought, okay? So I hadn't been in lower education, rather, since I had been in lower education, okay? College, of course, college campus, completely different, well, I'm trying to think of the term, but just completely different situation. There have been times in a college campus where you may have to tell somebody to leave the room. I had to do that, like, I know once for sure on one college campus. Where was that at? That was a campus where it wasn't at the time. It wasn't too many black students nor black teachers. It was an area that is very, racist area. Okay, this is the word. Okay, this is what they say. I didn't know shit job. I was happy to get it because I wanted to teach. That was something I always wanted to teach on college campus, and I got it. This was the 3rd campus I worked at. So I had to tell a student to leave one time. The racial stuff. I'm trying to think. There was another campus. I don't think I told him to leave, but I did have to talk to this student a little bit. Okay, the difference on a college campus is you don't really have discipline issues. What are you talking about? And no matter what, unless you were doing something vile and just wrong, you know what I'm saying, as a professor, it's your room. There's no, you don't have all the politics that lower education has hanging over your head. Okay, it's your room, and the administration, the offices and everything, they're going to back up the professor. It's just what it is. Okay, I mean, but unless the professor's doing something ridiculous and outrageous. Okay, but nevertheless, so I didn't like kindergarten at first. Oh, so people always ask me what do you like best, because I had worked with everyone at the time. I was like, well, I think I like, when I first started, I worked, like I said, I worked in middle school 3 times when I first started. And because I had come from a whole different background of education, okay, and these are areas that used to be very, very nice, okay, they're not anymore, okay, they're not what they used to be, all right. Um, I had an expectation that it was what it was when I was growing up, and it wasn't that at all. What time is it? Okay. And it wasn't that at all, right? So, but each school, I only did it like half a day. One school, 2 hours, one school, half a day, one school, I don't know, 3 hours, some shit like that. And each school that I left out, I was looking over my shoulder, like, oh, they gonna get me, But I was like, I will never, ever, ever sub middle school, right? Everything that I said I wouldn't do is what ended up enjoyed doing the most. I ended up having a long term sub position at one of the middle schools. I loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. It ended up being like, oh my God, like at that time, my favorite place. Okay, I love this. It was wild. Okay, them kids, and that was one of the schools where I was like, oh shit, When the first time I said, I'm looking over my shoulder. It's so funny. The day that I did it, the first time I was there, I go to my car because I was there. I was only there half a day, so I go to my car. It was toward the end of the day, but not the very end of the day. And I'm standing at the door, and I heard some noise, and I jumped, and I looked over my shoulder, and the security guard, he started laughing. I looked at him. He said, "You a sub?" I was like, "Yeah." And he said, what did he say? He said, "This your first time sub?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "That's the swim team." He said, "Don't worry about it, honey. They ain't gonna get you. We ain't gonna let them get you." I was like, "Oh my God, they were terrible." And he was like, "Oh, I know, I know." It was scary. It was scary, right? But that particular building, I ended up doing a long term. Now I have on this channel where I put up little shorts of DC. When I went to DC, it was that school that I ended up doing a long-term position there, subbing there, and we went, they asked me to help chaperone going to DC or whatever for the eighth graders. I loved, I walked away from there like, oh my God, I love this school. It's so funny. My second day, and I subbed as not as a teacher. It was more in the office, like discipline. I was supposed to be doing like level one discipline, but it ended up being more than level one. Okay, but I loved it there so much, and but I loved that position more so because I was able to work with students one on one and talk to them one on one, as opposed to being a, sub teacher. Here's your work, and they know you a sub. You know what I'm saying? And they want to give you the blues and all of that type of shit. Do what they want to do and everything. And you just looking at the whole room like everybody's bad. Sit down and shut up, that type of thing. No, I got to work with them one on one, and it was so rich. And but people have asked me what's my favorite, and I worked at a high school. Rather, I worked at a couple of high schools as a building sub. Sometimes high schoolers, really, by the time they are in the 11th grade, they are so chill. Like whatever. They really, every blue moon you get somebody with a little smart mouth or something. But usually by 11th grade, they just chill. That don't mean they gonna do the work that's left for them to do. I always will let them know, here's your work. I can't force you to do it, but here it is. I just ask that you just don't just leave the room without saying anything. If you do, you don't have a pass. Whatever happens to you out there with security, you have to, deal with that consequence. So usually by 11th grade, they're real chill. 10th grade, they're not as chill, but they're on their way. Ninth grade, they still got a little bit remnants left over from middle school. You know what I'm saying? So you might get the most kind of issues from them. You go in honors classes, usually don't give you no issues at all. One lady said that she found that if you worked in with the languages, whatever school, definitely languages, she never has an issue, with those. Except one school, the German class, I used to have to go up there all the time because they was giving the teacher the blues. But anyway, so sometimes high school in a way can be kind of boring. Because it's just like you can't tell them this is your work, and since everything's on the computer now, it's like, here's your work on the computer, and that's the end of that. You're just sitting there, so it has its but I did start going to a high school at one point because I worked with elementary so much. you know Listen, And this particular district I was in at that time, this is when I first started subbing, was rough. Okay. It was rough. And I realized like my second week of subbing, okay, I can't be, all nice and sweet, and love the children because they're gonna run over me, so I put on my 1970s 80s grandmama shoes on, and I have had children tell me, you remind me of my nana. But and they would give me the tough rooms on purpose because I was able to keep the room controlled. um but I said, you know what? I was getting headaches. I said, my blood pressure is probably through the roof and I didn't even know it. So I started going to, the high schools just to kind of, chill. So I was at a high school, at the high schools for a while. And then I ended up at going to the middle schools, which I really, like I said, I love more than anything. Okay. Then I said, well, I probably won't ever go back to elementary. Then I veered back to elementary. And I just had some, it's just really interesting working with working with students. I've worked in the special needs rooms. Okay. Just about, I worked in high school in 2 different districts, special needs. I worked in middle school only once, elementary schools maybe like twice. Well, I should say 2 different elementary schools, and then sometimes they have special needs students that, okay, sometimes they'll have the special needs rooms, and then they'll have I know they used to say special needs, but I think they started calling them exceptionally gifted or something like that. I don't know, because I don't work in them all the time. But it's very interesting, observing and watching and learning really from all of them, all the students, all the, children. Okay, especially low, like in elementary stages, because elementary, I think the rewarding thing about it is you see so much potential, all the potential in the world, and you begin to see when, as they're in their developmental process, when it becomes when they start, detaching or getting into that kind of learning self, but at the same time the importance of friends, how where they're asserting their independence in a sense from adults, and that's when you start getting the feedback, the smart mouth talk and everything, because I'm important too. You understand what I'm saying? I'm a somebody too, as opposed to, okay, okay teacher, okay mom, or okay, whatever, because they're still babies, and that's usually maybe like around, from what I'm picking up right now, like around 4th grade, third, maybe. Depends on, I want to say third, depends on the class, because every class, has their own its own personality. But definitely 4th grade, but 4th grade, there's still this need to please the adults, but at the same time, but I'm moving away from the adults. I'm becoming my own independent, person, my own independent self, right? So I love working with special needs students, right? So I was working at one of the high schools one time in the room, special needs room, and the parents telling me she can't stand the subs, right? I can't stand when the subs come, and I was like, well, why? What's the problem? She said, because when they come, they just sit here and they won't do no work. And I said, well, sometimes, this room. I said, not everybody. You have certification, okay, and you work with this population all the time. There are many people who never ever encounter this population, especially young people, so they might be nervous and just simply not know what to do, okay, and instead of saying, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I don't know what the hell to do, I'm intimidated by this shit, or I really don't want to do this, I don't want to work with this population, but I got to work today. You understand what I'm saying? They may just kind of be standoffish. I said, I'm not saying some people, they don't maybe not want to work, well, whatever, okay. And she said, but they just people like everybody else. I said, I understand that, but you know that, but not everybody. Not that they're not looking at them like they're people, but it's still, you don't know, you don't know. You're intimidated. You're afraid. What do I do? You okay? So I worked with one student at the high school. I used to one of the high schools. I loved working in this room. And one time I had to take one of the students to gym, right? So I'm taking a gym. He flew. Okay. Now, when I say he flew ahead of me, I don't mean he ran. He walked, but he flew. He was gone, and the security guard, I was like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to keep up with him. You know, I'm supposed to be with him, right? The security guards looked at me, they laughed. I was like, well, I see you doing this. And they was like, that's what he does. You know, so they called him. They was like, you got to slow down. Needless to say, he's on the track team, which I thought was phenomenal because I didn't know that they would allow students with special needs to be, were on those teams. Okay, he was on wasn't no special needs track team. He was on the track team, right? So they had to tell him, even when we left him, they had to tell him, don't, you have to slow down so she can keep up. Which, I mean, he was gone, okay, and I couldn't lose him. You know what I'm saying? And then there was one that I would really enjoy working with. I enjoy working with all of them, but it's just his sense here, the sensory thing or whatever. So he had some paper. I walked in that day and I talked to him. I'm going to be with you today. He had some paper and he was drawing on the paper with the blue. So we took them to what was it? Photography class. Okay. And I really like how, because see, when I was coming up, they went to people with special needs. They had their own school. They didn't go to school with, the main population. Okay. I don't want to say the normal or the regular. I'm just going to say the main population of students. They have their own schools. Okay. Well, it's not like that now. They're in the schools with everyone else, which I think is great. And then I think it's awesome that they'll go to the classes. Now, you have some students, depending on their level, where they're at, where like I was with one student the other day. I didn't work with him. He came into the room, special needs room. He got his laptop and he went to class like for the majority of the day. Okay. Then he came back like maybe towards the end of the day. You have some they'll just go for one class. You have some they'll just go for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. But having them in, with everyone else, which I think is great for everyone involved, because I observe the students, and especially in the elementary school. Oh my God. But even in the high school, they work with them, they treat them, they don't treat them any different, they speak to them. But anyway, this one student, so he's had some blue crayon or something, some kind of marker or chalk or something was drawn on the paper. So I said, okay, come on, we're about to go to photography class. Well, he brought the paper with him. And I didn't want to tell him to keep it there. I didn't know. I was like, well, is he supposed to keep it here? Can he take it with him? But he took it with him. And he kept doing this with it. Needless to say, he had blue all through here from drawing, And I was learning that they was telling me he has if you pay attention to him, he does stuff like that. It's sensory, I don't know, but something about his sensory needs or whatever, And I used to love working with him. I love working with all of them, really. But so I was in, working elementary 2 Fridays, not in a row. Okay, but it was like every other. I left home with somewhat of a sore throat. Okay, left school with somewhat of a sore throat. Okay, it's like, okay, let me hit this immediately because this is going to become a big cold or whatever. I'm in one room in the kindergarten room, and there's a student. He needs, just needs somebody to be with him. Okay, he's got so much personality. But in kindergarten, he's got the boogies and everything. And I have never seen. I have seen more children pick their nose and eat their boogers. I'm like, oh my God, get a tissue, But anyway, so get a tissue. So he gets a tissue. Next thing you know, I'm cleaning his nose with tissue, and the teacher was like, "Oh, you're better than me." And I was like, "I just can't. I can't. Why? I can't look at this all day because when they wipe, and the snot is all dried up all on their face, and it's like I don't want to see children walking around like that. But I can't look at that all day. You understand what I'm saying? So I get the tissue and I'm cleaning his nose. The great grandma and them, you pinching your nose and whatnot, cleaning his nose. And I'm in another room. It was that same week. I'm in another room, another kindergarten room. Half the room is gone because half the room was sick. Okay. So needless to say, that Friday when I left up out of there, I had, the scratchy, and I was like, let me hit it. Like, right. I gotta have airborne and orange juice, on deck, and honey lemon tea, okay, to combat it. But I really, really, now if you were to say what's your favorite room, it's just like I can't say, or what's your favorite grade? I can't say I have a favorite grade. Now I have grades that I probably would prefer not to work with. Okay. But I can't say I have a favorite grade because in every grade, I've, just sitting, observing, I've learned a lot watching them from where they are, you know, from kindergarten. Now, when I first graduated from college, I worked at a daycare. That was just, I simply needed a job. Okay. But watching them work from, watching them from kindergarten, all, and taking the steps all the way through, to the 12th grade. It's just an interesting journey watching the. Hell, for me, raising my daughter was interesting. Watching her. Just the whole development, the going from, wild infant up out of your, your womb and whatnot to becoming a full grown adult. You know, um, I just like it. So I don't have a favorite room, but I definitely have rooms that I would prefer not to work in. But I just love how they test you. So in a special needs room one time, okay, you're going to work with this student and this student. You're going to take this student to, the other room for their morning meeting. And I said, okay. So he's kind of nonverbal. So I'm taking him, I'm holding his hand, and he kept trying to go past the room. But one of the people who worked there knew knew him and was like, "Why are you going past the room? You're not supposed to be going past the room. Go." So I was like, I don't know, maybe he was just testing me or something. So we go in the room, and he kept, and looking at the door. I said, "Oh, you want water?" He shook his head. So I said, "Okay, let's go. You go get you some water." So he went out there and he got on some water. We go back in the room. It wasn't a minute later. He started doing it again. And I said, "No, you can't go back. You had enough, right?" And he kept looking at me, looking at the door, looking at me, looking at the door, looking at me, looking at the door. So finally he jumped up and he ran out the room. And I go after him and I was like, "Come back." He was looking behind me. It was so funny. He got him some water. I said, "No, come on." So we go back in the room or whatever. So we go for the morning meeting. They're sitting all in a circle. So he decided to sit kind of away from the circle. And I said to myself, "Oh, what does he normally sit in the circle with his, the person that works with him?" But so he kind of sat away from the circle. But the teacher didn't say anything. So he sat away from the circle. So there was a little shelf over there with, the teacher's paperwork in it. So he gets out a stack of paper. And I looked at him. I said, "No, put that back." So I grabbed the paper and I put it back. And even the teacher called out his name, like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Okay. So he gets it again. All right. And I grab him. I was like, "No, put it back." All right. So next thing I know, he's looking up at me out the corner of his eye, looking at the paper. So he grabs the paper, and I said, "Come on, let's go." So I was going to take him back downstairs to his room. But I said, "No, he's supposed to be up here. Just don't act like you can't handle it." You know what I'm saying? So what we did was I said, "No, come on, we're gonna go sit in the back." So we sat in the back. So all the students up front, we sat in the back at the other student's desk. He puts his foot up on the desk. And I said, "Take your foot off that desk." So he took his foot off this desk and he looked at me like, like, "What?" And I looked at him. He was looking at me like this. He was like, like, "What you gonna do?" And so afterwards, we got done. We left. I said, "Oh, you just gonna test me because I'm new, right?" He said, "Ugh." I said, "Yeah, I know." And I told them downstairs what he did. They was like, "That boy messing with you. He's just only doing that because you knew." I said, I know, because he didn't know me, or whatever, but it's always just so interesting working, with all the students. All the students. Like, so I had a little girl in the kindergarten, right? And she's the cutest little thing. Oh my gosh, she's just so cute. They're all so cute to me. I told you guys about her one time where we had a little bit of snow and her fingers were freezing and she's screaming and hollering. So I'm in the room. The teacher was there, so I was just helping her with another student. And then they have a volunteer. He's an older man that he comes and he volunteers. Okay, so he's there for like 2 hours, and the students, the kids, they love him, right? So the girl's screaming and hollering, and the teacher looking at me like, "Can you believe this?" And I said, "Well, why is she crying? What is the problem?" Because she wouldn't do something, so the teacher told her she couldn't play. Okay, so she screamed. I couldn't take it. I said, "Do you mind? Can I please take her and talk to her?" She was like, "Please do." So I took her out. She's screaming and hollering. And, I was talking to one of the intervention specialists. We were talking about this whole idea with the soft parenting, versus parenting from back in the day. She was saying some children it works with, some it doesn't. So I was telling her about this student who she knew. And I said, when I first took her out, my initial thing was to say to her, "Stop all that crying, be quiet, stop, just stop doing all that, But it just kind of be like, don't do that, because as soon as I bent down to her level, she just really lost it, right? So I just kind of patted her and I was like, "Okay, why are you crying? Because I can't play." And I said, "Why can't you play? Because the teacher said I can't play because I wasn't doing such and such and such." I said, "Now tell me, if you do such and such and such and such, then what? Then I'll be able to play." And I said, "So what should you do?" She said, "I should listen." I said, "Did you listen?" She said, "No." I said, "And because you didn't listen, then what does that mean?" "I can't play." I said, "So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to go in there and I'm going to listen." I said, "Thank you." I said, "Because the crying is not going to change anything." And I said, "So you're going to go in there and you're going to listen. You're going to do what you're told to do." She said, "Yeah." I said, "And you tell your teacher you're sorry." So as soon as we walked in, the teacher's right there. She said, "I'm sorry." So sometimes I find that all ages, really, like I said, usually high school, 11th grade, you ain't talking to them like that. Where they at is where they at, and that's it's done deal. For the most part. Sometimes you will have students that they might be dealing with some things or dealing with some issues, and they want to talk to you, or they need someone to talk to. But for the most part, by the time they reach that age, there's no kind of, even middle school, you can do that if then type of talk. But it is better to let them reason it out, because once they reason it out, at least they can see. Now, I had one student in the middle school when I was doing in the office work, when I was doing, it was more like discipline when I was doing that. I was talking to her and I looked at her. She said, "Okay, Miss Lewis, you're right, Miss Lewis." But she said, I said, "But I know that you're going to do whatever you want to do, aren't you?" And she looked at me and smiled like, "Yeah, Miss Lou." I said, "But at least now you know. So if you can get them to, like, reason it out within themselves, then it makes, at least it's not like you fussing at them. No, you talking with them, not talking at them. Like, I feel like maybe my generation, not all the time, I'm just saying in general, okay, it's a lot, it might have been a lot of talking at as opposed to talking with. I don't even say talking with, to help them see and reason the situation out for themselves so that they could understand. I was actually surprised when I was talking to the little girl in the kindergarten that she was I didn't think she was going to say that. I didn't think that she was going to reason that, because sometimes, you think that they're younger than what they, and I mean, like, their maturity level. Oh, I'm thinking, oh, she probably may not even understand, but she did. But see, now, kindergarten, I didn't go to kindergarten. I was pushed from, I went to Montessori preschool and thrown right into the first grade. So I didn't have kindergarten, but I do remember during that time period, kindergarten was like a half a day. Okay, kindergarten was basic, real basic. One banana. I mean, it was basic ABC and 1, 2, 3, red, blue. You understand what I'm saying? I had a kindergarten class where I was teaching them a lesson where I had to tell them, it was a game, and then I had to tell them, they had a little whiteboard. Now write the equation. I mean, I'm like, kindergarten? They're using this terminology in kindergarten? It's like, yeah, they're using that terminology. And those kids wrote, when I said write the equation, guess what? And it was nothing but like 5 plus 5, okay? But it's still an equation. And guess what? They wrote the equation, okay? No, I skipped kindergarten, but that's the thing. That was not terminology. I don't remember hearing that word till like I was maybe like in the 7th grade, equation, okay? So the things that they're doing in kindergarten now far surpasses, and it's far much more farther advanced than what my generation did, when we were that young. Okay. Now, now I went to Montessori. Montessori, for those of you who are familiar, is a little different. Okay. But I still don't remember hearing that word equation. Okay, until I was in the 7th grade. Okay, but I'm teaching them a lesson, and that's what the lesson said. It said that for kindergarten, I'm reading it now. Write the equation. Okay, so they are, doing stuff. I was just like, wow. And, I was like, wasn't kindergarten like way back in the day, like half a day? And one of the teachers said, she said, yeah, she said, but they haven't done that in years. I mean, basic stuff, take a nap, eat your snacks, basic, and then go home at 12 o'clock. You understand what I'm saying? But, so I was surprised, because not that I didn't think she had the smarts, it's just that I thought maybe that kind of reasoning with her, it was too advanced for her, or for that age group. I'm not saying for her specifically, for that age group, but it wasn't. She was right on it. Boom, boom, boom. And when she got back in the room, guess what? She listened so that she could do what she wanted to do, which was play. Okay. So it's like, I like being able to work with them, one on one, because then you get more of a feel of who the child is, as opposed to just that group type of, thing, because you focus more on the group. Got to get the group. We have to get everybody quiet, everybody paying attention, so we can do this lesson for the group. As opposed to and then too, I think so much is missed with each student when, each child, when you're not talking to them one-on-one, when you're just talking to the group. Like, sometimes I would notice, like, if you have to focus more on like a discipline thing, okay, I need the class quiet because I got to teach this lesson, that type of thing, okay, or whatever. I notice sometimes there can be a lot more, or even when I did the kind of the disciplinary, that long-term substitute role, sometimes you are so focused on those students who have these particular disciplinary issues or behavioral issues or whatever you want to call it, and then the students who don't have those issues, I felt like they're being ignored. So it's like, it's a fine line. You kind of want to try to make sure that every child feels valued. You know what I'm saying? And speak to everyone regardless, of what the situation, may be, But anyway, that's pretty much it, Yeah, I enjoy working with all of them, honestly. Now, I ain't gonna lie, the grades, I probably, that 7th, 8th grade, what is that, like 13, 14, that's kind of a hairy time, they say, with children anyway, because of the hormonal situation. They're going really from being children, now they're going into that teenage stage. Hormones is everywhere, puberty kicking in, hormones are doing what it's doing. When I did my chaplain residency at Cleveland Clinic, my supervisor said that, I thought he was joking, and I found out, no, that he was very serious. That's what they say, that age is when they say that a child is what did he say, something like insane or something like that. Oh, I'm laughing. And it's like, no, that they actually believe that because of the hormonal situation. Now, women who are going through, men go through it too, but of course, more emphasis is on women going through it, the perimenopausal years, where going through perimenopause, and I did my study on it, and I was, like I said, I was in like 5-6 Facebook groups, support groups for women that were going through it. Like, those are the age, they say, where a lot of women they can become alcoholics, they can end up, divorce rate can be really high. They find them doing some crazy things. That's when they would put women like in insane asylums and all of that type of shit. Give them, pills, Valium and all of that type of thing. Okay, because no, they're not saying they're perimenopausal. Okay. Oh, they putting something else to it, and it's like, no, you're perimenopausal and your hormones are decreasing. Okay, and the hormones are extremely essential to not only one's bodily function physically, but mentally as well. Okay, we know that we are all one: physical, mental, spiritual, psychological, all of that. It's all one. What Where one area is affected, the entirety is affected, not just that particular area. You know, when you're sick physically, it can take a toll on you emotionally and mentally as well. Why? Because we are one. The entirety of our being, you know, is one. So where one area is affected, all the areas are affected. Okay, so when those hormones begin to decrease, okay, and shit, without fucking notice half the fucking time. Okay, that shit just boom. You wake up one day and like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? Okay, um, you know, and you know how it has been for women without any real, no emphasis placed on the woman. The woman put on the fucking back burner like she ain't shit. Okay, she just can't, you know, she getting old now. She can't bear children no more. You know, ain't nobody gonna want her, this, that, and the other. Okay, in a patriarchal world. You understand what I'm saying? Where I'm sure in the matriarchal systems, they probably had some. Probably if I look in that book that I said I was going to do on here, which I haven't, The Great Cosmic Mother. I don't recall seeing anything like that. And then when I was reading it, I very well could have, and it may not have stood out to me because when I was reading it, I was not perimenopausal. So you know, but I am now perimenopausal. Though you can still, well, you are. You're still having your cycle, your monthly cycle. So you're not menopausal yet. You know, men go through it too. It's called andropause. Okay, so what they may say about men, oh, he's having his midlife crisis. Okay, he's going through because he's losing his hormones. He's going through the andropausal phase. Okay, so these young people at that age, you know, they're hormonal. They say they're hormonal because their hormones are increasing here. Okay, preparing their bodies and their minds for whatever. Well, you know, we know he's preparing the body for, okay, you know, childbearing years, the years of becoming a quote unquote adult, being able to take on the next phase of life, adult life, you know, as the older people phase out. But of course, we don't live in a society where that begins, where we start doing that type of thing at 12 or 13 years old. Though the body, the woman's body, many women's bodies are ready for that, or are preparing for that to, you know, their childbearing years. But our Western culture, we don't live like that, whereas we have cultures that did exist and live like that. Okay, but the body is still in those phases. Okay, as the older people are phasing out, because I'm not quite sure. You know, they say people are living longer. Okay, I was watching. I posted it on my community tab where the one woman was talking about perimenopause and how you know, things have been done where women are living longer. I mean, you know, generally a woman after her childbearing years, you know, in some societies, well, what is her use now at this point? Because what is she here to do? Bring children into the society so we can perpetuate our society and keep our society going. The physical body of a woman is literally made to do that. Okay, I'm not talking about whether you should have children or not, so get your Western mind out of it. I'm talking about what it is made to do. The breasts in and of themselves are there to feed, you know, not just to be sucked on for pleasure, but to feed, you know, the child that the woman brings forth. Okay, so after that, when those years are coming to a close for her, you know, I guess you could say in an evolutionary sense or whatever, or I don't know, whatever, a sense that, you know, okay, so now she is no longer useful. Okay, well, of course, Western society, we don't like that. We don't, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying, okay, we don't like that. We don't look at where we're human beings, you know, this, that, and other. So we tend to live longer than probably some cultures may feel like was intended. Okay, so now what is her use? Okay, well, her use of many uses besides just being able to have some babies. Now that may just be a patriarchal mindset also, which I do feel it is. Okay, but now, like, you know, it's right there in the video. Okay, but anyway, that I posted it a few weeks back. But anyway, you know, and men too, you know, it's not, that ain't just a female thing. Now, men sure that they can continue to bring for children till, you know, supposedly till the day they fucking die, or however fucking old, okay? But, you know, what was the man's role? Why were men here? Okay? What did women create fucking men for? What do we need you motherfuckers for, okay? To build, you know, and you know, for I believe maybe like, you know, any kind of aggressive situations for the protection and the building, okay? But you know, we don't live that way in our Western world. Okay, we have other ways of living and purposes for living that are highly questionable and fucked up. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Okay, work for this company till the day you die, goddamn. You know what I'm saying? And keep money in a multi-billionaire's fucking pockets, all right? But any fucking way, okay? But to keep your nation going, you know what I'm saying? Whether we like it or not, to keep the nation going, to keep the culture going, to keep it, people keep it going, but people have to be minds have to be quote unquote brainwashed, and I don't say that in a negative way, but they have to be brainwashed or enculturated, or in a sense toward whatever the society is for. Okay, so that what so as they grow and as they become, they can keep it going. They find it important, home, family, country, flag, all of this type of thing. It has meaning, and each person that is brought into the society must be taught these things so that it can, from day one, really in inception. Okay, but it's already in the sperm and in the egg, but from immediately, so that it is of importance to that person, so that person will find it important to keep that society going, to keep their culture going, to keep perpetuating it. Okay, why? For survival, because that's what human beings want to do. Okay, I am talking about on a subconscious level. Okay, maybe even a conscious one, but a subconscious, deep, on a very deep level, to survive. So survival, and why your particular country, your particular culture, etc., because for human beings it is very important that they be are part of a group. Okay. That's where they find safety. I'm hearing safety net. Yes, that's where they find safety, a safety net, being with a group, a community, in other words. Okay. Now, we're not, we hear that group and community, we automatically look at it bad. Okay. As opposed to group, community, to being a part of a community, even when it boils down to family. My last name is such and such. Okay. And this is who we are. This is where our people are from. This is, our food, or this, that, and the other. You say it with pride. Okay, so anyway, all right, back to the children. So when they get around a particular age and the hormones are raging, when their bodies are being prepared for something, but being prepared for something in a culture that does not, we don't do that in this culture, but the body is preparing for it any fucking way, you know. Okay, and if a child does, we not expecting the 13-year-old boy to become a man. Now you do have, like in your Jewish communities, your bar mitzvah. Okay, well, what, the 13-year-old boy is now a man. Okay, or in some cultures and societies where the girl, when she gets her period, there's some kind of celebration or whatever. Why? Because she is now a woman, meaning now she can bring forth life. Meaning this boy, 13-year-old man, now he can do what is necessary to do to take care of community and home. Okay, whether the culture, our cultural ideologies in Western culture, whether we do that or not, the body still prepares for it. Okay, so why does the body prepare for it? So that would say to me, well, what's the question? Is the question that, are we then, this is something I'm just thinking about, are we then not in line with the body in this culture? Okay, whatever. I wouldn't doubt, I just wonder, it makes me wonder, if the body, if the culture continues on in the way that it's continuing on, then how will the physical body change? How much has the physical body changed? Okay, and how much more will it change? Okay, because we are not doing that in this culture. Okay, it's not even an expectation. 13 years old, if you're not in the Jewish community, or maybe some others, you're looked at as, you're still a boy. You're just a boy. You're not ready for anything like that. Okay, all right. But unfortunately, in some aspects of this culture, the boy never becomes a man. Okay, I ain't saying that 13 you got to turn him into no man neither. Maybe probably should start, all right, same thing for the girl. We don't want our 13-year-old girls having children. Okay, though the body's ready for it. For some women, generally. Okay, for some women. Okay, but we don't look at the 13-year-old girl, period or not, and say you're a woman. No, it's just a girl. You understand? Okay. All right. Anyway, but so the grades that I prefer not to work with, though I have found value even in that age group, but I don't enjoy working with sixth fucking grade, fifth and sixth. I do not like working with fifth and sixth grade. Some people would say seventh and eighth grade. Okay, I do see what's going on in seventh and eighth grade, but it's that definitely sixth. Ooh, whew, I can't work with this sixth grade. I mean, I've had to, but it's a I prefer not to. I see it more at that age. Just the crazy, bonkers. It's just bonkers. And it's like to see this child in the kindergarten and then see them in the sixth grade, it's like, what the fuck happened? Well, they're doing nothing happened. They're growing up, They're growing up. You don't want to see them in the sixth grade the way they were in the kindergarten. Then you would say something's wrong. Has someone looked into this child, this child's needs, this special needs child here? You understand what I'm saying? But they just be bonkers to me in the sixth grade. Seventh and eighth grade, seventh grade, they're very immature. Very immature, but it's something about like when they are with eighth graders, when they're in that building. With the eighth graders. Okay. At first, beginning of the school year, they're just so immature. It's like, oh my God. But those eighth graders are fun. They are funny. They're a little out there, but they're just real fun. And I've had times where I've subbed eighth grade in the room and just be like, they have me in there cracking up. You know what I'm saying? It's just sometimes it's just like, okay, it's just funny now. And they're funny. Okay. But and they're fun. But seventh grade, they're coming in real immature from that sixth grade realm, but as the year goes on, they're finding their way, to that level that they're not little kids anymore. I don't like saying kids, but children anymore. They're becoming, now I'm becoming a teenager. You know what I'm saying? So it's a level of immaturity that they step out of, and a level of maturity that they step into that you can probably see definitely by, like December, definitely after Christmas break. But the craziest thing is to come back to school like they're seventh grade, and then you come back and see them in the eighth grade. It's like, oh my God, they've grown up so much in over the summer in such a short period of time. I was in the gas station the other day and I saw this girl. I said, she looked like a little woman. Okay. And I said, I know her. And I kept looking at her and I said, I know her. And she caught my face and she stopped. And she stared at me. I said, I know you. I said, where did you go to school? And she told me where she went to school. I said, oh, remember I was subbing there. She said, yeah, I remember. And then I said, you're in the seventh grade now, right? Yeah. Yep. And she said, yeah. I said, you've grown up so much just in that short period of time that I hadn't seen her from last school year, with her little lip gloss on and her mascara and whatnot, So yeah. Yeah, I found that at this point I really love working. I love working with kindergarten. I did the snot and stuff, but I really love working with them all. I love working in the special needs room. They have their own personalities and everything. And the thing about it is, sometimes you think because they're in special needs, they can't this, they can't that, or they don't know. They are right on point. They know exactly what's going on. They know who you are. They know everything. You know what I'm saying? But they have needs that cannot be met. They have to have a special place for certain needs that they have to be met that they can't be met in this other classroom. But I have worked too with sometimes where you have the special needs, you take them to one of the rooms, the where the larger population is, and other students will grab that they want to work with them so bad, and they grab them, they help them with their stuff. Like I had one, I was working in the library one day, so I had a variety of classes come, and there was one little girl, and I said something to her, and she went to answer me, and I didn't understand her. And one of the little kids, she said she doesn't have her talker. And I said, oh, she needs a talker. She said, yeah. And I love that. They jump in and they help, where such and such glasses? They need their glasses, and they hold them. Can I help them? And I love that, because we didn't, like I said, when I was coming up, that it wasn't like that. But again, I went to little small private schools too, but I know that in public schools it wasn't like that. They had their own school that they went to. So, yeah, yeah, that's it. I was just thinking about my week and some of the funny things that happened with some of the students that I worked with and whatnot, and I wanted to share it. So, I mean, it's funny to me. You weren't there, so you didn't get to see. You didn't get to see little boy running away from me to get some water. You know what I'm saying? And I'm running after him, laughing. Whatnot. And then playing. We had a game. What was that? With fourth grade, I had a game with them. That was fun. But I just, more than anything, I love talking to the students one on one. Yeah. And listening to their cries and all the things that's important to them. And one is in the library, and one little boy, kindergarten, I kept telling him, this is one little boy I told you guys about one day. He said, I miss my mama. And I said, I miss my mama too. So we're in the library, and they would not be quiet. That little boy, I didn't know he had all of this life in him. He said, shut up. Shut up. He was telling the other students, because they would not be quiet. Shut up. Shut up. The teacher said, shut up. And y'all won't shut up. I looked at myself, okay, thank you. And I told him, I said, but he is right. I told y'all to be quiet. You won't be quiet. And it's just, some of them are so mature nowadays. I had one little boy, third grade, they were doing a crossword, the word find, and he comes to me, just like a little man, okay? And he says, can I move to another table? And I looked at him, I said, why do you want to move to another table? He said, because at my table, this is just how he talked, at my table, they're not doing their work. They're drawing. And I want to work with people that want to do their work. And I looked at him, I said, well, listen at you. He was just so mature about it, third grade. And I said, well, where do you see a table that you would like to work at? This table right here. They're choosing to do their work, and I want to be part of that. I was like, okay, go ahead. You understand? Third grade. The children I think they're so mature, much more mature now in their expressions and everything than we were. And I'm not saying, when I say more mature, I'm not saying that my generation was immature, but their level of maturity seems to be greater than previous generations. But I remember my dad telling me something about, there was some scripture, something, I never found it, I never really looked for it, but he's telling me there was some scriptures about how as time went on, the children would be smarter. Those born into the world would be smarter than the previous generations, or something like that, just their level of maturity. But of course, with, what you take in during your pregnancy, and not just during your pregnancy, it's literally in the sperm. It's literally in the egg. You understand what I'm saying? It's in your bloodstream, whatnot. What you're taking in, okay, is what you're going to put out. You know what I'm saying? So, we didn't have the technology and the advances and so on back then, that are in the world now. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, what people are taking in is what they are going to put literally, and figuratively put out into the world. So it's just, just an amazing thing, and I feel like it's rewarding. I went into it looking like, okay, this is a job. Okay, no, it don't pay that much money. You know what I'm saying? But I'll say this, honestly, for what subs do, well, I ain't gonna say that, because some subs might catch this and hey, because I've talked to some subs who have complained, and I'm like, I don't understand why what is the complaint? We literally go in a room, especially depending on what age group you work with. You work with the middle school or high school, and maybe even fourth, all the way to from fourth to the 12th grade. You literally go in the room, because we got this technology now, and you tell them your assignment is on your Chromebook, on whatever that the app is, or whatever the thing is, the teacher is, under such and such day and such time. The title is called blah, blah, blah. That's what your teacher wants you to do today, and turn it in for 45 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. It depends. Some schools have blocks and whatnot. Literally, that's it. And you go from class to class to class to do that all day. I mean, what do you want? You want to get paid, $100,000 for doing that? And I'm not trying to. I don't want nobody to misunderstand, but that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. Now, sometimes in elementary schools, you do have to teach a lesson. I've had to teach a lesson, but the teacher has it all spelled out for you. This because you don't want them to miss their building blocks. Especially certain ages. You don't want them to miss them building blocks. One day can make a fucking difference sometimes, okay? But it depends on where the teacher at is with their lesson and what they're doing, blah, blah, this, that, and other. But, like, what are you complaining? What's the complaint? It's really, and a lot of people that sub are people that are retired. So we're not talking about people trying to start in their 20s and make a career out of subbing. Now, a lot of people start subbing who have become teachers, or they went to school and get their teaching certificate and their teaching, licensing or whatever, and they're subbing just to get a little taste. They haven't gotten a job yet, this, that, and other. But a lot of times, it's retired people. You know what I'm saying? Or people just, looking for something to do. You know what I'm saying? Various reasons. Okay, but it's just like, I don't feel as though. There are some things about it that, on that side of it, that I have expressed, to whom it needs to be expressed to, But other than that, it's just like, I don't understand what you're complaining. They don't ask much of us, just someone to be here to cover, the room or whatever, All right, well, that's it. 1 hour and 16 minutes. All right. All right. Thank you to those who have subbed to my, look, I'm hitting my computer. Thank you for those who have subbed to my channel. Thank you to those who are members of my Patreon. I'm going to get February up. Maybe I'll work on that tomorrow or Monday for Patreon. And that's it. Y'all have favor. Peace.